as we wind down in this class, there's really one last thing besides your final that I am asking you for: course evaluations. So before you get asked to take them though, for me and for your other classes, I think it's useful to give you some insight into what exactly course evaluations are and how they get used. So when you take a course evaluation, you go online to the link in the module for this week. And you're likely familiar with how this part of the process works, since presumably you've taken course evaluations before. And if you have, then you should know that they're anonymous. So you can respond anonymously about how well you think the class has met the course goals listed in our syllabus. Our first goal was to create and complete research projects. You've had 4 of these assigned, so in my perspective, that's been done. Next, aligning research questions with appropriate research methods. So you did that in your research journals, right? So you thought about a research question and then you did research to find sources. Next, we're thinking about whether or not you employed critical thinking in evaluation, speculation, analysis, and synthesis. You were given opportunities to do that, in my view, when you wrote your annotated bibliographies, and further when you wrote the research paper. Our next goal was to use a variety of strategies to gather and organize information appropriate for the context and persuasive to the intended audience. So you've had an audience assigned to you for every project, and we've talked about ways for you to reach your audience effectively. We've also practiced different types of research, like primary and secondary sources. Did you use the university library to further your research agenda? Well, you had the Search Smart tutorial early on in the course, so that's how I see us meeting that goal. Next, we looked to see if you used various style elements in a rhetorically effective manner. We talked about voice and ways that you could bring your voice into writing, and those elements of voice were there for you to use and evaluate in your own writing. Next, we're thinking about whether or not you collected, analyzed, and organized research in verbally and visually compelling ways. And really, this concept is getting at multimodality, which you accomplished with the Dear Data project. And finally, we're thinking about whether or not you took initiative for the development and completion of individual and joint research projects. If you completed literally a single project, you achieved this goal. Joint research projects are a little more challenging to navigate in an online course, but I tried to build in chances for you to collaborate still through discussion boards and through the peer review assignment. You also had the choice to go to the Writing Center for extra credit. So, you've evaluated the ways in which we've met the course goals and you've completed your course evaluation. Now what? Well, I have to wait until after final grades are completed, and then I get to see the anonymous feedback. So just to be clear, no professor can see whose response is whose, and the only way you could be identified is if you include identifying information in a comment. And you are certainly not expected nor encouraged to leave identifying information in a comment. Some professors choose to wait to read their course evaluations, some don't. So personally, I wake up and check them first thing in the morning after they're made available for us. I love to see feedback from my students, and I'll be especially interested this time around because it's my first time teaching an online class like this. So I want to know the ways that I can make it a better experience for you. I'm also not the only person who sees my course evaluations. So every year, non-tenure line instructors go up for an annual review where a committee of peers reads through all of the course materials, like the syllabus and the course calendar, all of the assignments. Those all get reviewed, and then the committee goes through all of the course evaluations. Then they talk about all of the course evaluations and course materials, and then the committee decides whether or not to renew the contract of that faculty member. They also decide based on those materials whether or not they want to give that person a raise. So your course evaluations go directly to other faculty members, not just me. So something to keep in mind with this is that it's a place to give actual feedback, and that feedback should be tied to the course materials. So some things that are appropriate to comment on in your course evaluations include assignments, activities, readings, projects, structure of the course, communication, etc. Some things that are not appropriate to comment on, which, believe it or not, I need to specify because they've ended up in my course evaluations, are any comments that you have about me personally. So making comments about my body, my face, my voice, not appropriate. I have received comments on all of those things, and I remind you, I am not the only one who sees these. My coworkers read these. So please keep your feedback limited to topics related to the class. Do your best to model the formula for effective feedback, back when we tried peer review. So give a specific piece of information, then make a suggestion or ask a question, right? Something like, if the week on how to structure a research paper would have come sooner, I would have had more time to work on my outline. Or I really loved the Anne Lamott reading because it gave me the validation that even experienced writers have bad first drafts, right? Give something specific, then say what the effect of that specific thing was. So now that we've covered all of that, I ask that you please take the time to fill out the course evaluation for this class. You help me become a better teacher, and I appreciate hearing your honest and thoughtful feedback. So if you have any questions about course evaluations or how they get used, please feel free to reach out to me and let me know.